Hi, I'm Agnes.
And I'm Natalie,
We're friends,
and coworkers.
and this is our podcast, Dinner Last Night. Nat and I share a passion for food and events.
And over 35 years of combined experience in the hospitality industry.
So pour yourself a glass of wine
Or whiskey,
and join us while we share our adventures in home cooking, entertaining.
and of course, what we made for dinner last night. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Dinner Last Night. Before we get started today, I just wanted to make a few little announcements. I wanted to remind everyone that if you haven't yet, to follow us either on our Instagram page at Dinner Last Night Podcast, all one word, or you can like and follow us on Facebook, which is also Dinner Last Night Podcast. On our Instagram and Facebook, we post sound bites in the lead up to releasing an episode, photos of the dishes that we made, and all kinds of other fun stuff. I also wanted to just alert everybody to our website, dinnerlastnight.buzzsprout.com. On our website, under each episode's description, we'll post links to some of the recipes that we made or gadgets that we talk about in each week's episode. And lastly, as you know, you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or basically wherever you get your podcasts. But you can now also listen to it on YouTube. Check out our channel at Dinner Last Night. All right, let's get started. So, Agnes, what did you make for dinner last night?
So how are you, first of all? I haven't seen you in like a week.
I know. I'm good.
So this weekend we celebrated Owen's 9th birthday with some close family and friends. So it was quite of an exciting Saturday that we've had. Yeah, so we invited our closest friends and family members. It was a little bit of I wasn't sure if I wanted to have a celebration or not, but we've been friendly throughout the pandemic with about 5 different families and with also close families. So we felt that it was the right thing to host a little celebration at a home. So obviously we've really switched the way that we host an event. We wanted everything to be outside. And we also decided that it would be best to offer cold food and have everything. And I know we talked about it because we do it at work all the time, but we decided to individually package everything that we're serving. So that way, if, kids were grabbing food throughout the day, or if it just felt like the safest and best way to put out an event. So I can tell you a little bit about the menu if you would
Yeah,
like
what
to
did you
hear.
make?
Yeah, so I used those 9-ounce cups, clear cups with like the dome lids, and I made a smoked paprika couscous salad, which was delicious.
Yeah.
It had cherry tomatoes, feta cheese, roasted red pepper, spinach, and the like tricolor Israeli couscous,
Hmm.
and that was very delicious. It was more for like parents, right? Really, we
Adult
made little
food.
adult food. Well, there were about 20 adults and 20 children, so it had to be kind of like a 50-50 thing.
Mhm.
Um, I had little cups of like cube cheese, like cheddar cheese, Munster cheese, all of that. I made cups, in the 9-ounce cups. I made little like fresh fruit cups with pineapple, blueberries, strawberries. So these were great because throughout the afternoon, the event started at 12:30, and throughout the afternoon, all the way to the end, kids were and adults were grabbing those. So that was really good. Then I made for the kids, I made ham and cheese sandwiches on baguette. So very traditional. I bought the European butter, like the one that
Mhm.
is very yellow and the bigger block, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
I picked up fresh baguette that, on Saturday morning and did like I guess like the French deli ham. So it's more like, I don't think it's processed as much. It's not like slimy, it's not sweet, and it's not smoked.
Right.
So plain, but like good
Yeah. It's
uh
like thicker
deli
cut.
ham.
right?
Yeah, it's a little bit thicker cuts too,
Mhm.
yeah. So, ham and cheese, so it was more geared towards the children, but I think the adults also really appreciate that, and it just reminded me of me being a kid. And then, I made a flank steak sandwich too.
Mhm.
So that sandwich, I didn't know what kind of bread really to get for it and where to get it, so I decided to make focaccia. So I know I was making the I can see your face, you look really excited. So, I had picked up that recipe from the Bon Appetit magazine, no need focaccia, where you just like mix all of the ingredients. Of course, I put a little bit of my sourdough starter in it too.
Mhm.
And then you just mix it quickly, put it in the fridge, and then the next day you like separate it, let it proof again, and then put it in the oven. So I made like two large focaccia, put like rosemary on top of it, and I used that for the bread. And then it was flank steak. On the top part of the bread, I did Dijon mustard, spicy Dijon mustard. At the bottom, it was aioli. And then arugula, sliced tomato, flank steak, caramelized onion, and then the top piece of the sandwich. And that was really, really awesome. It sounds good, right?
Mhm. I love focaccia.
I
So
love focaccia. And
I have
it's so like it smelled so good. I used like the double O, like very fine flour, and
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
was just
I have the best memories of, I think I mentioned it before, but my mom had been a pastry chef and a really good baker, and I just have the best memories of, like, when we were kids, she would make focaccia all the time, and I just always remember wanting to, like, press the little
it's the
holes
best part.
with my finger.
It's the best part and the bubbles. And then, we had a lot of like bag chips, bag popcorn. I also got like those little bags of like fresh baby carrots and the little bags of like fresh apples, like
Mhm.
quarters. And I had like wrench little cups, hummus cups, caramel cups. And the kids they just love that. You know what it reminded me of? Remember we had done this really large event for, I don't know, like 2,000 people for work this one year, and we were doing all of the kids like little lunch bag, and we had like the apple quarters
Oh,
and the
yeah.
carrots and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like, this is this big event again. And then for dessert, we got a bundt cake for Owen to blow candles on, and like an 8-inch bundt cake. And then for everybody, we gave out like smaller, like individually packaged bundt cakes, and there was like a bunch of different flavors like white chocolate raspberry, chocolate chip, confetti, red velvet, carrot cake. So we had a lot of families. Some of Joe's families have very small children, like all under a year old. So it was just
Mhm.
easier for them to just grab and go for. You always have guests who are, they're coming in and then they have another party or dinner to attend to. So it was just easier to have everything packaged. So like that. Also, we knew that Owen blew the candles on the cake that we didn't cut for everybody. It just
Mhm.
felt like very safe and like sterile a little bit. But I think, having all of everything kind of like individually presented, people kind of like grab throughout the afternoon. And, I feel like it was about 60 degrees outside. I felt like the integrity of the product, stayed really, really nice
Mhm.
for a long time. And the kids, I felt like it was so much better for the kids too to just grab because you always have that kid who just will put his hands on everything.
Right, right.
So that was a really, really good setup. I was really happy about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I made last night.
Was it weird having all those people over? I mean, how long has it been since you hosted anything now in COVID times?
um, we have seen I feel like I've hosted a dinner. Well, we went on vacation with our friends, right? So I've been
Mhm,
used to being around people, and I feel like I've hosted dinner. I've hosted my in-laws, and but definitely that was it was a lot of people, but because we were outside, I have asked them, I have give everybody directions like don't enter through the home. We have a gate on the side of the house, enter through the side gate. There'll be tables and chairs outside. We have set up three tables, chairs. There's a big table in the patio. There's benches. So I felt everybody was like separated far enough. I had put like hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes on all of the tables.
Mhm.
A very few people came inside the house, I think, other than using the bathroom or changing a baby.
Mhm.
Everybody, stayed outside. And then I actually did this big sign in front of the house from this company. It's called Sign My Yard in
Mhm.
Westchester. So it's a franchise. I think they have them everywhere. But they come in the day before your event and put this large sign that covers your whole front yard, and it said happy ninth birthday, Owen. And you can completely customize like the colors and the little like motif that they put out.
Mhm.
So that was really like adorable. And we had this like video game trailer for a couple of hours, and that was the main attraction. And Owen was, surprised. He didn't know that that was coming. So it was like a 50-foot long video game trailer, and you come in and you could have, the kids. So of course, like in the trailer, the kids had to wear masks and
Right.
all that good stuff. And then you also had two screens outside. So like the dads were playing on the outside of the trailer, and then you had the kids inside. And that was such a good time. And thankfully it was just a beautiful day outside, sunny all day. And so I felt really safe. I think I feel like because of the pandemic, we really have been very selective and just have been seeing a small amount of people. But I feel like those relationships then, by having events that are a little bit smaller, I just feel like you get a better interaction with people. I had time to talk and spend a lot of time with everyone, and it's just a almost like better connection when things are smaller. And
Yeah.
I feel like when we do dinner parties, that's also what I enjoy, when it's a little bit smaller and you can
Mhm.
really connect.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Question, where did you get all the mini bunt cakes? You didn't send me a picture of these. I'm very
Ooh.
curious.
So this it's a franchise. It's called Nothing Bunt Cake. And
Oh.
they do like all those different like type of there's one in Pennsylvania by where right where I live. And yeah, they do like little bun cakes, and they're delicious. So I tried them maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago because I knew I wanted something individually packaged, and I didn't want to do cupcakes because we've done cupcakes before, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't want to make anything because I don't enjoy baking, when
Right.
I'm under pressure. I like baking when I have like a little more time, but
Right.
I don't like to bake under pressure. So um, I had seen them. So then I researched their website, and it's so adorable. Like they're all those different flavors, and they're all like nicely labeled. And one of my dear friend's daughter has celiac, so they have like the same bun cake but gluten free. And
Oh, wow.
like that, she was able to eat what everybody else was eating. And they look just adorable. And I had gotten those little stickers. I really wanted to brand the event a little bit, right? So I got stickers with and all the napkins had this like game controller logo that says Owen's ninth birthday party.
Mhm.
And I had put the round stickers on top of the bun cake too. So we will post photos so you'll be able to see everything.
For sure, for sure. I think actually, first of all, I love that name, Nothing Bunt Cake. I
I
love a
know,
good
it's a good pun.
I
It's a good
love
food
it.
pun.
Yeah, love a good food pun. I think actually, now that you say that, I think there's one is there one in Wynwood? I feel like I
Yes.
yeah, I feel like I've driven past it before and always been, like, intrigued by the name, but never gone inside.
It's so funny because Joe was like, when it started, he was like, "Oh, this place, like, what is it? Just sell bundt cake? Like, this place will never be open." But I when I went there 3 weeks ago to try it out, like I think we were going to our friend's house, and I bought like a dozen of them to try all the different they have so many flavors, and they have seasonal flavors like pumpkin and praline and all of that. And I like waited like 15 minutes. Like they're busy. And then same thing when he the great thing is you can order online. So I placed this like huge order with 40 individually packaged bun cakes and this complete customized 8-inch bun cake with hockey stuff on it and all
Mhm.
that good stuff. I was able to place it online 2 days before. And then we
Oh,
picked
wow.
it up. So that was great because you have a receipt, you know exactly what you ordered. All the options, everything that you can custom is like available online. And then I sent Joe to pick it up the day of, and he waited maybe like 5-10 minutes, but so easy, so
Oh,
convenient.
yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Bun cakes are good too because I feel like they're not as, like, fragile, right? Like, they tend to
Right.
be denser, so they're good for something like that, I think, because they're a lot denser, but
That's
yeah.
they're so delicious. They have a flavor called white chocolate raspberry. That's
Mm.
my yep, that was it.
Good. I'm gonna have to go now to the one in Wynwood and try some.
Yeah, I have friends actually who've ordered some for like Thanksgiving. Like they have some, and they're so cute. They put like ribbons on it. They can really decorate them or for Mother's Day or for all those like holidays as like a hostess gift. I know we'll do an episode on hostess gifts, but this is
Mm.
like a really good one if you want to bring it to your mom or have it for Thanksgiving. As I said, they have like a lot of seasonal flavors.
Oh,
So that was
definitely.
awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
between that and using also like Sign My Yard, same thing. You can just place the order online, and maybe an hour later, the lady who's running the franchise was texting me and saying like, "Hey, like, does he like certain sports?" Or she was in contact with me for a while and tell me, "Hey, I have those Halloween stuff. Do you want me to put Halloween stuff?" So just like really good service.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a little over the top. I'm not gonna lie, but you know.
Listen, you only turn 9 once.
Exactly.
I'm sure Owen loved it.
I think our neighbors across the street were shaking their heads like we're in the middle of the pandemic and she's like have this big trailer, all those children. And I'm like, no, but we have sanitizer. We're like, we do it, we're just outside, I promise. And Joe was trying to invite them over. He was like, "Oh, come over. We have plenty of food." And like, no, they wanted nothing to do with us. But yeah, and Owen was really surprised with everything, and he's it's been a rough year definitely for him between school and everything. I think it's been a stressful, I think, on a lot of children. So I think nobody thought about the pandemic, being outside playing and having fun. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. I'm sorry we couldn't be there. That sucks. I hate it when I have to miss Owen's
I
party.
know. But Owen actually listened to our first episode in the car with Joe, and he looked at me and he said, "Mom, I didn't even know Natalie had a sister." He was so surprised. He was like, "I can't believe she didn't tell me, but she has a sister."
Oh my
It
goodness.
was the best thing. It was the best comment. He's our biggest fan. Oh,
Well, I am his biggest fan, but yeah, so I didn't make dinner last night because, well, for the same reason that I did not attend Owen's party, because Zach and I were in Montgomery, Alabama for the last couple of days. I think we were there maybe 4 days or like three and a half.
mhm.
And we just got back home today. We were in Alabama because Zach was competing in the Strongman Corporation's national championships. So he's
Wow.
yes, yes, he's into the
So
whole
strong.
strongman into the whole strongman thing. So this was his first national. So we flew to Montgomery, Alabama, which I have to say I really didn't know all that much about before we went, but I did plenty of research and we did eat really good there. Granted, there are not as many options, obviously, as Philly. Also, with COVID,
Right.
there were a lot of places that were like temporarily shut down. So one of the things that, I really wanted us to eat while we were there was some barbecue, but I couldn't find a place that was open or like we would always get done too late at night.
Right.
to get any. But the very first night we were there, we went to the most amazing restaurant. I mean, when I looked it up, I knew that it would be good. So it's the number 1 rated restaurant in Montgomery on, like, TripAdvisor. It's called
Mhm.
Central, and, I knew it would be good, but let me tell you, we ate that meal and I was like, "Holy cow." So, Central, it's like this, it's kind of an upscale casual in this, refurbished warehouse space. It's a beautiful restaurant too, right? Huge, warehouse space with just all these beautiful, like, wood and lighting fixtures, and we actually ate out on the patio, but the food is like, it's like, new American, but with a
Right.
focus on kind of, Southern classics, right? But with some different twists. So the meal we had, first of all, when I saw the drinks list, I knew I would like the place because
Whiskey all the
yeah,
way.
the drinks list was separated into, like, cocktails and beer on one side, wine on the other side, and then a whole 'nother side that just was all whiskey, but the whiskey portion was called the brown water list. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, Zach, this is my kind of place."
I never even heard of that before. That's a new expression. I've never heard of brown water to refer to whiskey. That's awesome.
I know, right? Yeah, and then so the menu there is really great. It's really, so I think their focus is on, like, regional, like, kind of multicultural twists on, like, regional food, but using as many local ingredients as possible, right? So we got the I think to start, we got these, like, gochujang lamb ribs. Gochujang is like a Korean,
Mhm.
like, spicy, almost ketchupy kind of sauce. So we got these gochujang lamb ribs with candied pecans and mint on the top, and these ribs were so delicious. Zach and I ate them, and we're like, "Oh, we could just eat 4 more servings of this for dinner." It was so good. It just, like, fell off the bone. The candied pecans were, as I was eating it, I was like, "This," I've never eaten candy pecans like this, right, as, like, a garnish on something really savory like that, but it reminded me as I was eating, and I think this was probably the intention, of, like, Southeast Asian food a lot of time will top things for crunch with peanuts, right? Like chopped
Right,
peanuts and things like that,
right,
like, pad thai, right, has a and, like, that's really a lot of times it's for crunch, but also for sweetness, right, on something really savory, and it
right.
was as I was eating it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I get it. I get it. We're using the candy pecans because this is very local to here, but in the same kind of application, right, as the peanut topping that I'm so used to," and it was perfect. It was like as I ate, I was like, "I can't imagine anything else being on top of this. These candied pecans are delicious."
You said it was lamb?
Yes, lamb
Oh,
ribs, which was also
right.
an unusual twist, but so tender, just, like, falling off the bone, these ribs. So good. And then we had you'll be surprised by this because I'm not a big salad eater, but we had what is called their winter apple and pig salad, which
Oh, of
was
course.
yeah. So, there wasn't really that much, like, salad
There
greens.
was no greens.
Right. So the salad was burrata, speck, this really nice, like, winter apple, which the apple wasn't raw, but it wasn't fully cooked either. I
Right,
don't really know. It's because it still had some crunch, but it wasn't, like a raw apple,
right.
um, but it wasn't super soft like it had been cooked, and, like, watercress was the greens in that, and then on top, it had, like, basil seeds,
Oh,
again, for, like,
wow.
some crunch and, like, brightness, and
Right.
that was so delicious. I mean, if whenever I go out to eat, if there's burrata on the menu, then, like, I have to order it,
For
so
sure.
um, and then for our entrees, okay, we're getting to the
Oh,
best
so
part,
I'm sorry,
okay?
like, this wasn't the end?
No, no. That was just the lead up for our entrees. So Zach got like a New York strip steak because that was the night before his first day of competition, right? So he was trying to just stay with like proteins and some carbs. So he got like a New York strip with palm aligo, when it's like the mash with
Mhm.
and like white asparagus. So that's like a more traditional, right, steak and
Right.
potatoes, which that was excellent. But the pièce de résistance, Agnès,
Ooh.
I got I ordered the Alabama Gulf crab fried rice. And let me tell you, this dish surpassed all possible expectations I had. I mean, I got it because, honestly, I think Zach just wanted to try some of it, but he didn't wanna have that as his entree, and
Right.
I was too busy looking at the whiskey list, so I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that sounds good, I'll get that. Yep, that'll be fine, whatever, I'm easy, I'm easy." So, I got that. I I can't even it was from, like, the first bite to the last one, I can't even describe to you, the flavors were incredible. It was like, so the rice was like a more broken rice, like the
Right,
really short, grain,
right.
like, broken, and it had, like, a smoked soy sauce, it had this perfectly poached egg on top, so that, like, it
Ooh.
like, so nicely poached so that it wasn't super runny, just kind of, like, jammy, so you could still mix it in with the rice, but it wouldn't coat the, rice grains totally. And then it had, like, a spicy kind of mayo-based sauce, the Gulf crab, obviously, just, like, such nice big chunks of this Gulf crab, green onion, smoked trout caviar,
What?
and yes, and Benny seeds, sprinkled all around, and then the soy sauce, so I actually went back and looked at the menu, before we recorded because as I was eating it, I was like, there is something about the flavor of this that is so familiar, and it's like I think it's the soy, but it's not like a typical soy. It's like there's some sweetness here. So it was a smoked soy sauce, and that's what I think gave the rice so much of its flavor. But yeah, from my first bite to the last one, I was just like in awe. I mean, you can ask Zach. He was at one point. He was like, "Do you want to try some of my steak?" And I was like, "You know what? No, because I think I just want to keep these flavors in my mouth and like not worry I don't wanna muddle it with, like, your steak and potatoes and everything, and he was like, I've never seen you turn down trying some of somebody else's food, so that must be really good." I'm telling you, I would've eaten there every night just to eat that dish again and again. It was so, so good, and I think some of it too is just I just was not expecting a meal like that good, uh, but I don't know, it was just so savory and, like, rich, but not super heavy either. It was true like, really, the perfect example, I guess, and I think this is, like, the centerpiece item on their menu of, like, what they do, right? They take, like, the local Southern ingredients, right? That
Right.
Gulf crab, the Benny seeds, and then kind of, like, do this whole twist on it. So it's, like, sort of familiar, but also not, and just this awesome it was so awesome. And, even, like, the next morning, I mean, it was so good. I was embarrassed, first of all, by how quickly I ate it, how how clean the plate was. Like, every grain of rice, I made sure I got, like, every little bit of sauce. The white plate was perfectly white by the time I was done eating it. Yeah, and even as I was leaving, I was still, like, licking my lips to see if I still had some of the flavor, like, out there, and, like, the next morning, when I woke up in the hotel, I told Zach, I was like, "The very first thing I thought about when I woke up was that crab fried rice."
Oh my gosh. So did Zach get to try any of this or no?
Oh, the crab fried rice? Yes, yes. He did have a
Oh.
couple of bites. I did allow him to have some bites, yes. Yeah,
That
but
sounds incredible.
it was so good. Yeah, I was so, like, so pleasantly surprised. It was such a good meal, and really, really affordable. If I had had that meal in Philly, it would have cost, like, double the price. But yeah, but the whole trip, like, we ate pretty well, I, like, did my research, had a lot of biscuits, a lot of
Right.
delicious biscuits. Yeah, and it's kind of cool. I didn't really know what to expect. Montgomery is the capital of Alabama, right, which is really deep
Yeah.
kinda deep south there, and, but it seems like there's a lot of places doing kind of cool things with, kind of interesting takes on Southern food, right, even with really simple things like biscuits and that kinda thing. So we ate really well the whole time we were there, and,
What is some of the typical food that you will only find in Alabama? We have Philly cheesesteak. What is their thing over there?
so they're really, like, in, like, the heart of the South, right? So
Mhm.
but they're also along the rivers, so they have Montgomery is anyway, so they have a lot of really good seafood, actually. I don't know that they have any one like that Alabama specifically has any one thing that it's known for, but like many of the southern states, right, the things that they do well are things like biscuits and barbecue and catfish.
Mhm.
I we did have a delicious fried chicken biscuit breakfast sandwich one morning. It was perfectly fried chicken, not greasy, just like super crispy. And the biscuit was real buttery and nice. Yeah, so it's I mean, it's your pretty typical
Right.
what the stereotypical, like, Southern food is, but, the interesting thing is all of that food it's very heavy, right? But I think when it's done well and, you don't eat it in excess, you don't they're not, like, overly, like, I don't feel that any of the meals that we ate were really overly unhealthy or anything like that, right? As long as,
Mhm.
when you're eating them in, like, the right portions and that kinda thing. Yeah, but I do know that on that whole Gulf there, they get a lot of really good seafood. So, what did I have one night I had another great thing I had one night. So, the first night of the competition, Zach was super tired, so we actually ordered
Right.
in, to the hotel from some place on Grubhub. I can't really remember the name, but they were like a kinda like gastro pub, and
Mhm.
they did a similar thing, kind of like a modern American take on Southern classics. So, one of the things I ordered was fried green tomatoes with a crawfish remoulade. That was really, really good. I love tomatoes and green tomatoes in particular. It's a little bit like when we were talking about the perfect plums.
Right.
Really good green tomatoes are hard to find. A lot of times when you get them, when you order them in places, they're either, like, overly ripe, so they're really mushy once they're
Right.
fried, or they don't have, like, a lot of flavor, but these green tomatoes were delicious. They were still, like, pretty firm, but the flavor was still, like, sweet, but they have, like, a little bit of, like, bite, a little bit of sharpness to them. It was really good, and then that crawfish remoulade. I'm not a big crawfish eater usually, but I was like, "Well, if there's gonna be somewhere with good crawfish, it's
This is it.
probably." Yeah, it's probably in
This
Alabama.
is
So,
it.
um, yeah, so that was that was really good too. But yeah, so it was a good trip, and I learned, the whole time I was there, I learned a whole lot. Before going there, I did a little bit of research, and I guess I had forgotten. I mean, I knew this, but just never made the connection that Montgomery is really was really central to as a very historic place, I guess, right? It
Right.
was really, really central to the American slave trade. It was really central to the Civil War, and it was really central to the civil rights movement. So, like every morning, I would kind of go around while Zach was getting ready to compete. I would just go around and see the sites. I went to a bunch of different museums, but there's a lot of history there, and it's really interesting. And I think it's really interesting that a lot of the restaurants too, there's a lot of pride in, like, Southern heritage, and I think now too there's much more of a movement in Southern food to kind of take it back to its roots more and really trace the heritage of a lot of that stuff. So, like, the crab fried rice, I remember I said it had Benny seeds on top.
Mhm.
So I didn't actually know what those were when I ordered it, but then I looked it up afterwards because they look like sesame seeds, and they taste pretty similar too. But I was curious, so then afterwards I looked it up, and Benny seeds are actually an heirloom sesame seed, and it's really interesting. Hold on, I'll read you, what I found about it.
Okay.
So, slaves brought Benny seeds from Africa to the Carolina Sea Islands in the early 18th century and cultivated them in hidden gardens for nearly a century as a staple food seed for rice cookery. So it's really common in, like, the Gullah Geechee cuisine of those, Carolina islands.
Mhm.
By the time of the country's revolution, Benny seeds and their oil had earned a place at the table in the big house, and Benny became the focus of intense antebellum market farming. Slaves and masters alike consumed the plant at every growth stage, from the tender young leaves to the petite seed pods similar to okra, and later in the growing season, the mature dried seeds we know as sesame. When heated in cooking, Benny seeds possess lovely field flavors, a characteristic nuttiness, and deep burnt honey notes. Unlike modern sesame seeds, our Benny asserts its culinary presence by magnifying umami nuances in foods, making it unparalleled for use in both modern and historic recipes. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting because I think there is I don't think you have to think that deeply into sort of classic Southern cuisine to see as well the ties to, like the African slave trade, right?
Mhm.
And to see the ties of like many of those ingredients and how those things came to America. And now this seed is sort of considered this heritage seed that's cultivated by like Anson Mills, right, to try and keep the crop alive here,
Right.
specifically as a heritage seed. And you see it now too in a lot of these like new Southern chefs cooking, like Sean Brock.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, he uses it a lot. He does a lot of stuff with a lot of these kind of like heritage ingredients of the South. So yeah, so it was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting trip, and I'm still thinking about that crab fried rice.
Are you gonna try to make it at home?
No, because I think I would just be disappointed. And, like, where am I gonna get smoked trout caviar? I mean, that's another thing that's really, local to there, right? Is, like, that smoked, trout and catfish, and that seafood is all,
Right.
very regionally specific to there, so
What about smoked soy sauce? Can you buy this, or you have to make it?
I'm not sure. You probably could buy, though, I mean, I'm sure you could. I don't know that I could make it personally, but I'm sure it can be made, but yeah, no, I don't think I'll try because I don't know, I'll just ruin the memory of that dish.
Right.
And now I have a reason to go back there, so
It's so awesome that you really get to eat some really, like, different
Mhm.
food, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I have always kind of had this weird affinity with fried green tomatoes in my head. Obviously, green tomatoes are not a thing in, in Hong Kong.
I don't think I've ever had green tomatoes
Yeah,
before.
but as a child, I was always intrigued by them because do you remember the book? And it was also eventually made into a movie, Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe.
Yeah.
So, I remember reading that book when I was in, like, 6th or 7th grade, and it just always stuck with me, this idea, and I didn't even really know what, like, fried green tomatoes looked like or tasted like at all, and then whenever I see it on a menu in the States, it's another thing, it's like the burrata kind of, I always
Right.
order it because something in me is like, "Oh, yeah, I like this," even though, as a child, obviously, I had never had it, but it would just always intrigue me. So now I've had it plenty of times, and it is actually something I really do, enjoy, but yeah, I have a weird affinity for fried green tomatoes. Alright, well, shall we move on to the theme of this week's episode?
Of course we should.
Yes, so the theme of this week's episode is dinner parties, AKA
Mhm.
a couple of couples.
Yes.
So, Agnes, I think that part of the reason that we wanted to record this episode and release it this week is because I believe there is a special date
Yes, yes, November
anniversary.
6th. Yes, yes, absolutely. November 6th will be, Joy and I's, 16th anniversary, wedding anniversary, so we thought,
Wow.
why not talk about when we invite couples over or, all of that good stuff or entertaining at home. So I know your mom does an absolute wonderful job hosting large parties. I have, I think since we've had children and our friends have had children and everybody is having children, we have found that having people over is just a better solution, right? Versus going out. First of all, we live in a suburb. It's not like there are hundreds, you live in Philly downtown. It's not like there are millions of options to go out to. And I also feel like because we've worked in the service industry too for a while, like sometimes it gets difficult, right? You want to go to a nice place, but like with children, it just gets really complicated at times. And
Mhm,
like you got to find a sitter, and then your friends need to find a sitter, and maybe like your sitter cancel, but then your friend's sitter doesn't cancel, and
mhm.
it's this whole production. So like having people over at home is just kind of a better fit. Everybody is more relaxed. There's no timeline, there's no reservation time, even though I don't really appreciate when people are an hour late. Uh, but but it's just so much more fun to like have people over and to cook for them. I think my really good friend talks about the different way that we show love to people. And I'm like a service person, right? Like I show that I love people by doing things for them.
Mhm.
And putting together a dinner for friends, that's really the best. That's the best way to go. So I think that maybe two families is about the comfort and I guess, the most connection that you will find in a dinner party, right? Like, so
Mhm.
if you invite a family, a husband and a wife and a couple of kids, it's great, right? Like four
Mhm.
people, four adults, and then kids is great. I think having another couple, another family is even better because, like that, the two families can also interact while I do other things and put things together, and like that people can really also get to know each other better. But yeah, that's I think having people over is just such a intimate, and you just really get to connect with people so much more
Mhm.
rather than like a restaurant environment. And for some people it's the opposite. Some people only can relax if they are out and they don't have to worry about anything.
No, you just love to host people. You are an immaculate host. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I really host, many people in, like, small groups, although, I don't know, I feel like it's just been so long with the pandemic and everything since I've hosted anything in my house that everything seems like it was 10 years ago, but, like you mentioned, my mom obviously is the queen of the big party, and I think I tend towards hosting larger gatherings. And the thing is, even when I do host just a few people, I'm really bad at like controlling how much I cook. which which is definitely something I inherited from my mom, because I could be hosting 2 people or 10 people and probably cook the same amount of food. Like, in my
Yeah.
head, it's never enough variety, it's never enough, like, quantity, and then I end up with these leftovers for days and days and days, which, I don't mind. It's kind of a fun game trying to repurpose the leftovers, but,
I know Joe was making fun of me all like Saturday saying like, "Do you think you made enough food?" And he was talking in front of our friends, showing like the display. I was like, "Do you think you made enough food?" And after the third time, I was like, "Do you want to be the family that runs out of food at a party?" No. This is
I
why our
know.
friends keep coming back. It's because we always have plenty of food, plenty to drink, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, that's also, like, our, catering mindset, right? God forbid you run out of food. You just can't. You just can't. That's
I
ki
was
it's
for Owen's party, I was making calculation. I was like, "All right, so the cups are 9 ounce. I think the right amount of cheese per cups is 4 ounce. So I need I don't know how many ounces of cheese." And then I was like, I have like the little scale. I was making sure that there was 4 ounces in each of the cups so I could have the number of cups that I wanted of cheese. And
Oh my
this whole
gosh.
time, like Joe was looking at me like, "What is wrong with you? Like, does it really matter?" Like, "No, it makes me feel good." Of course, yeah, we'll have, like, some leftovers, but, not as much as I would have thought of because, eventually people stayed from, like they came at 12:30 and the last people left around 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, so they also, like, went back for more, had dinner pretty much, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Well, this is also the genius of, like, everything pre-portioned, right? Is, like, it's portion control, right?
Right.
It's so funny. You're so meticulous. No, it's fu I mean, I know that you're meticulous, obviously, you're that way at work, but I just think it's funny that I think we're both meticulous at work, but I am definitely not. As soon as I leave work and walk in the door of my house, that all goes out the window, but I just love that you maintain that level of, like, organization and detail. I can't believe you
Yeah.
were measuring the cheese.
Yeah, the cube cheese was measured. Yeah, I also like I have this new like pastry mat, and when I had my 2 focaccias, I like measured them so that they would all fit into the box, and I cut them in like perfect square, remove all of the edges, and Yeah, like exact math, makes me feel good. So that if we were running out of food, I could come out with like, no, I anticipated that 24 people would have this sandwich. And turns out more wanted it, but there was plenty. I mean, there are spreadsheets and documents behind this party, obviously. I didn't just like write it out on a piece of paper. But yeah, measured everything, even measured the fruit because so like, if you have 40 people coming at your house, like I can't just like guess how much fruit
Right.
to like buy, like when
Mhm.
everything, just like you said, everything is individually portioned and the cup is a certain size, like how much you have to put in. But if you don't measure, then the first people has like, 8 ounce of fruit and the last person has two in it, and that would
Mhm.
look awful on the display. You know that.
Yeah. No, no, for sure. Obviously. Uh, so what are some of the things you like to so, first of all, when you host people, is it usually
Mhm.
for dinner,
Yeah.
lunch, brunch?
Yeah, I like to do 2 meals, either like Saturday dinner, or I like Sunday morning brunch, you know? That these are the 2 meals that I like to do. I like to do dinner, and then if the people were invited to have children, we make them come maybe at like 5 or 6 o'clock, and then the kids get to play, and then we eat later, and then, that kind of like goes on as long as there are booze around.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and I don't really particularly enjoy making lunch because I still don't know what a lunch in the US is. Is it a
Right.
sandwich? Is it a salad? And I was really challenged, actually, believe it or not, by trying to find a good sandwich to make for Owen's birthday because I don't really like eat sandwiches. So I don't know like what it's supposed to like taste like or the amount so I had to look for a recipe for this flank steak sandwich, which sounds silly, but
Mhm.
like I didn't know how much of everything to buy to make the certain amount.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't really like lunches, but Sunday brunch is fun because you can make eggs Benedict, French toast casserole,
Mm.
you can make just quiche and there's just so much. You can just do so much. It's just more complicated because then you're useless. You start drinking then at 11 o'clock
Mhm.
on Sunday. You're useless the rest of the day.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, some of the things that I really like to do, though, when we have people over, I always like to have like a special beverage napkin.
Mhm.
Like, I know we always do, we have a bar in our family room. I always love to have like a seasonal like beverage napkin, like whether it's Halloween season or Christmas or spring, like having a nice beverage napkin. I think that's all of our days in catering kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say traumatize me, but like having a nice, colorful or like like seasonal beverage napkin is always like essential. Having candles, like tapered candles on the tables is really important. Having some kind of centerpiece is great. Um, and then, a lot of times I don't cook everything like, I still do a lot of things when people are around the house so that they know that, I just didn't do everything, and then, I still like to prepare and finish, whether it's
Mhm.
like, finishing the salad or finishing the dish when people are around, and then I
Mhm.
look I
Mhm.
like to, like, hang out in the kitchen.
Yeah, I think that the seasonal or themed napkin, I mean, you're right, right? That's our work brains
Mhm.
still working. But, I think why it's great is because it's such an easy and small detail, right? And it really it's an easy thing to do, right? You can get beverage napkins anywhere. You can get them on
Right?
Amazon, you can get them at Target, whatever. But it just pulls everything together in such a small way.
Mhm.
But I think lots of small details like that, right? When you're hosting any kind of event, big or small, are the things that kind of make the difference. For guests, right? Because you can see, even if you, as a guest, you don't actively kind of think in your head, right? When you see these markers and these small details, like the stickers that you had for Owen's party, right?
Right.
they all kind of send a signal to the guests that there was, like, a lot of thought put into this, right?
Right,
Somebody spent a lot of time, thinking about it, which, then kind of translates into that feeling of, like, hospitality, right? And of being
right.
taken care of and thought about, right? Somebody went to great lengths to think about how to make this experience, special for you, right?
Right. That's really the biggest message that I think always try to send people who come over our house is that this was all like thought of, right? It wasn't like we didn't just call you at the last minute or
Mhm.
like we really wanted to put a lot of effort and we want to show you that we're prepared for you. Like if you have food allergies, like we know about it. If you don't like something, we also know about it. The place is obviously like put together. We remember to put toilet paper in the bathroom, all of those necessary details. And I mean, our house is like, right, like generally speaking, pretty organized, but like we make sure that everything is nice, clean, smells fresh. We have a nice like seasonal candle. Believe it or not, Joe loves to like pick seasonal candle. And
Really?
he's very upset that actually I think the Yankee Candle next to us has closed down, and he is obsessed with picking out candles. It's very important to him. Like for him, it's like when you walk into the house, like the way that the house smell is critical. So he's the best like candle scent picker on earth. Like if you need a candle, like any time of the year for your placemat, text Joe because he will know what to recommend because you want to be seasonal. Last year, he bought extra fall Thanksgiving scent candles. He did not burn them when it was time for Christmas time candles. He held on to them and we used them this year. It was very important to him. So, yeah, he's
Like,
so
that's
funny like
awesome.
that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I never would have guessed that. Oh,
Yeah, it's hard to picture, but yes.
Joe, what a complex character. Well, so I remember the last time, Zach and I came over, I think I
Mhm.
mentioned it before, when you made a delicious parsnip puree, and, what else did we have? Short ribs,
Right.
delicious cheese board, of course,
Of course.
always, always.
Yeah.
So when you host, people, do you always serve food, like, family style, or do you sometimes, like, plate the individual plates?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played individually because I think that it's not as I don't want to dictate to people what they should eat or
Mhm.
you know. I think there's this one dish that I do. It's the like chicken cutlet Milanese. And
Mm.
that dish, it's like the panko parmesan crusted cutlet,
Mhm.
and it's better like on with like the arugula fennel salad on top. So
Mhm.
I do like even if I do it family style, I build that dish already so that people
Right.
can take it that way. But yeah, I don't often like plate up already. Other, unless it's like soup or dessert, but really I don't plate up. Do you do that?
No, definitely not when hosting people, I think it's the same sentiment as you, right? Like, I think it's better to just let people choose what they wanna eat. Plus, I like
Yeah.
to see what it's also easier to see what people like, right?
Yes.
If you're watching, like, what they take and then what they go back for seconds,
Yep.
so that's always, that's always enjoyable too, right? Because obviously, part of the reason that you make this food is that hopefully people enjoy it. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, no, I don't usually plate up unless, yeah, I guess maybe dessert, right? If you're like cutting up a
Like a
cake
cake
or a
or
pie or
something, yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I think also plating individually plating things adds like an element of formality that at least for me doesn't feel like very,
Yeah.
n-
Well, the
you
thing
know.
is I like when my guests at the end of the day, like, offer to help me do the dishes, so if I formally plate, I feel like It just doesn't work. Like, I played in your food, "Okay, are you gonna help me with do this or no?" I just feel like it's too formal, yeah.
Yeah. No.
I prefer 4 people to, like, help. Remember when we watched the documentary from, Samin Nosrad, and she talks about, like, always making the one on Netflix, you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm. Mhm.
And she says that she always let her guests come and, like, finish and, like, do dishes and stuff like that.
Right.
That sounds kind of fun, but I think I'm too controlling to do that. I don't think I'm ready for it. But I'm thinking that maybe in the future, I wanna maybe do, like, a fresh pasta party and, like, have people help me actually cutting like,
Oh,
pasta.
yeah, that would be fun.
I think, like, there's less, way for that'll be more fun because also
Mhm.
you're, like by the time you make the pasta, then you boil them. Like, it's really, like, a fast process then, but it's just the cutting process take a long time, so if you have more hands to do that, that could work.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about what you said about Samin Nosrat always letting her guests clean up and stuff, and I think I'm kind of the same. I don't know that, like, I would it's nice when, like, guests offer to, right? Like, you want people to offer to,
Mhm.
but then you don't necessarily want them to. But I will, if I have, a couple people over, I have had, smaller parties or whatever. And if I have like family members here, like if some of my cousins are here or my sisters and they start cleaning up, then like I won't stop them from doing, like then it's not weird. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're just family that's trying to help clean up.
Right.
And like that's fine. But it's not even so much I think a controlling thing. Like I'm not concerned that people don't know how to wash dishes. It's more
Right.
I don't know, I think it just kind of goes against working in hospitality, right? It goes against like your nature. Even as like when I was working as a server, I always hated it when a table would try and make it easier to, like, clean up the plates, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I get the sentiment, right? People really they're trying to do you a favor, right? They're trying to help you because they appreciate, your service and that kinda thing, but I always hated watching people do that, like, it always made me uncomfortable that I was like, "No, no, like,
Like, "No, I'm not
it's
doing
my
my
it's"
job because they're
Right,
doing
right,
it,"
it's yeah,
you
it's my
know?
job to do this, right? Like, that's why I'm here, let me take your plates, right? Um
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's also something I still notice it, like, when I go out to eat. I just, like it's also just a pet peeve, like, seeing a stack of plates in the middle of the table because all the guests have done it themselves, and, like, if I walk into a restaurant and I see that, it makes me, like, anxious because in my head, that either means that, like, the guests have been waiting so long,
Right.
right,
Timing is
that
off.
they had to do it themselves, right? Or, like, the flip side of that is, like, no, maybe the guests just did that and the server's timing is perfect, but now the guests have messed it all up and now the server looks bad. So, like, I see it and I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 just don't." It's the same though when I'm, like, at, a dinner party or something like that. I won't move to, like, pick up my plate or anybody else's unless, like, the host does, right? So,
Right.
if I was, like, having dinner at your house, I'm not gonna get up and, like, take my plate to the kitchen or anything.
Yeah.
If everybody else is still sitting there, even if it's with empty plates, right? Like, that would be so weird.
Yeah, because then I'm
Um
like, "Oh, I'm sorry, are you in a rush? Like,
Right,
what is
right,
happening?"
right. But if you
Yeah.
stand up and start to take plates, then, like, I will stand up and also, like, help you take
Right.
right? Like, there's, like, an order, um, and, like, of the timing of everything, right? And, like,
Right.
the sort of customs and I'm just
It's so
still
weird.
thinking about I'm just still thinking about the plates stacked on the tables in restaurants. I just get so it just gives me such anxiety. Like, the most that I'll do to help the server and obviously, I was a server for a long time, it's not like I don't appreciate what they do, but I just, like I know that, like, lots of servers feel the same way, right? They don't want, like,
Yeah.
the plates to stack either because if they don't get to you, then somebody else walking by, like, their boss could also think, like,
Right.
hello, pay attention to
What
your
have you been
table,"
doing?
right?
Yeah.
The most I'll do is, like, I'll put the silverware, like, on the plate or something because like, so that they don't have to do that when they come,
Right.
but otherwise, like, I don't move the plate to, like, the middle of the table, I don't, like, I just wait. So, you host people a lot. Do you let people bring things? Do you tell them, "No, no, don't bring anything?"
Yeah, so I never, like, say no. I think, I think we've talked about it. I don't I don't perform baking tasks really well under
Mhm.
pressure. So I normally let people, bring desserts for sure, or wine
Yeah.
if they ask. Yeah, it also
Mhm.
depends who it is. It's only if it's somebody that I feel really close to. If it's someone that we don't know as well, or family members that we haven't seen in a long time, it depends on the level of closeness. I would only ask people to bring something if I feel very, very comfortable.
Right.
Like my mother-in-law, for instance, for Owen's party, she asked if she could help, and I know she means it. Like she means
Mhm.
it for real. She wants to help. So I
Right.
said, "Why don't you guys bring the ice?" So like that, I knew they were coming a little bit earlier, so they helped like brought the ice, and we like iced down all the beverages outside and all
Mhm.
that good stuff. Ooh, I didn't tell you, Joe got the little tiny airplane bottle
Bottle.
of wine
Wine.
for the party. I was like, "I want everything individual. I don't want a big bottle of wine. I want straws, and I want people to just have their own individual bottle of wine so they don't have to touch the same bottle." So, yeah, the, like, really tiny, like, bottle of wine. Oh my gosh, that was so cute. But anyhow, yeah, so if somebody really means it and it's a lot of people, then, yeah, like, I let people bring dessert because like that people can either choose to bake it or buy it, and I think it's fine because a lot of places sell dessert and it's very delicious, more delicious than probably I would make, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and then when we go to people's house, a lot of times I will offer to bring dessert because, like, I don't mind. I don't mind, like, make if that's the only thing I have to do, then I don't mind bringing dessert. But if I have to worry about, making all of those other things, like dessert is just like I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah, I have a hard time, like, if people tell me not to bring something, following that instruction. Like, I really have a
You
hard
always have to
time.
bring something.
I
You have to
know,
bring
yeah.
something.
I ca like, even if it's something small, like, I just can't. And, I think some of that is, just, like, guest etiquette. I do also think there is, like, an Asian cultural thing behind that as well, like, never kind of showing up to somebody's place, like, empty-handed, right?
Right.
Or just the same as you would never show up to, definitely not a Filipino mom's place and not eat whatever it was that she put in front of you, even if you already just ate a meal. That would be the most rude thing you could possibly do. But yeah, so yeah, I think there's a couple of different things going on there where I just can't. I'm like, and and it's a little bit like what you were saying, unless I am very, very close to the person and they're like, no, seriously, like I really don't need anything, then like I might be like, okay, or if it's somebody I see a lot, right?
Right.
Then I'll be like, okay, sure, that's fine. I'll get you next time or whatever, right? Um, but yeah, but otherwise I'm just like, no, I have to get something, even if it's just like a bottle of wine or whatever. Um, yeah.
Have you ever
Otherwise,
had someone that was coming to your house and that didn't eat or didn't drink or they
hmm.
didn't like what you made?
Um, I don't I don't know that I've ever had anyone over that didn't eat. I feel like I would remember that. I feel like
I
I would
know.
definitely remember somebody that didn't eat anything. But I don't know that there's been anyone that came and didn't like something. I think it doesn't happen that often for me because I also, like I said before, make way too many things and often like far too much variety of things.
Right.
So, um, so I think like, I mean, I don't know. Nobody's ever told me, but I guess you wouldn't, right? If you were a
Right.
polite person, you wouldn't tell your host, like, I really don't like your food. Um, but as far as I know, I don't think that that's happened. I think I would remember, but there's definitely been some things that like I've made that maybe are not as like big hits as others. But sometimes I make
Yeah.
things more for me than
Well,
for
yeah,
anybody else.
I mean, there's a part in hosting that is really selfish, right?
Mhm,
In a way, like I enjoy that time that I will spend by myself in the
mhm,
kitchen listening to disco music And
Mhm.
just like it's like you can say like, "No, I'm getting ready so I can have those 5 hours. Just, like, leave me alone. Live your
Mhm.
life," like,
Yep.
be like, I have that dedicated time, so I think, like, selfishly, I enjoy, like, I'm picking all of this, and you have to just follow instructions?
Right. Right. Do you ever, try new recipes when you're hosting people, or do you always go with, like, things that you've made before?
I I have tried new recipes, but I would have, like, researched it, all of the reviews if it was online.
Mhm.
So last year for New Year's Eve, for instance, I made duck confit for the first time, which is more than just, like, a simple, like, cooking process, right? It's like a
Mhm.
3-day thing, and I was nervous, but also, like, it was exciting. And
Mhm.
then seeing the result all together, like, I think that was really cool. But the people that I had invited have been over to my house for New Year's Eve for, like, a couple of years, and I knew that if it wasn't perfect, that they were still gonna be it was gonna be okay regardless. Like, I knew that
Right.
there's people you can try recipe with. Like, if you're coming to my house, I feel like I can try something new, right?
Right, right,
There's people you can't.
right.
But I
Right.
I I do, yeah. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, no, I think I, definitely try new things when I think sometimes that having people over is almost like an impetus for trying something new,
Yeah,
in part because even though they may not eat the, like, tried and tested things that I make all the time, in my head, I'm like, "But I wanna give them something new and special." And so,
right?
like, if I make something that for them, then maybe they've never had that I make all the time, it doesn't feel special either, right?
No.
Like, it feels like you're cheating that, like,
Yeah,
you would make this awesome thing and be like, "Well, yeah, because I make it, like, every week, so
yeah, of
thanks.
course.
I know it's
I
great."
know. This dinner party is boring. You guys can eat, I'm leaving.
Yeah, no, so I I think I always try and do a couple of new things, but I think I always have some, like, fallback things too, right? Like, if something really doesn't work out, I mean, I think there's only been 1 or 2 times where I've done something that truly just, like, worked out terribly, and so I had to, like, discard and was like, "Well, thank
Yeah.
goodness I have this backup." It's usually baked things though, honestly, like, it really falls flat, sometimes literally, is
Yeah.
when I'm when I'm trying something baked and then I'm like, "Nope,
No.
nope, trash, trash."
You know what? I've made mistakes when I would try to braise stuff in a rush, right? Like, I have this
Mhm,
big piece of meat, whatever it is. I think it happened once with, like, short ribs, and another time I think with some pork where
mhm,
it was supposed to be braised, but I was in a rush. I didn't give it enough time,
mhm,
and it wasn't like when, like, short ribs are supposed to be, like, braised and falling off the bone. Well, if
mhm.
you eat them, like, before that stage, it's not great, So, like, you can I think from the time people come to your house, you can probably make them wait an hour to an hour and a half, especially if there's kids, there's appetizers, there's
Mhm,
drinks, like an hour and a half. After an hour and a half, I feel really bad. So, like, I was like, "Oh, yep, I guess this is it. This is not
yep,
gonna get any better."
yeah, yeah.
But it happens.
You live and you learn.
Yeah. But also sometimes it's like it's not just you rush it, it's you bought the wrong thing, right? Like, I was like, "Well,
Mhm,
these short ribs didn't have enough fat. Not my
yeah,
fault," you know?
right, yeah, yeah, or well, it happens and then you don't have enough time to, like, change what you're doing, right? You're like,
Yep.
"Oh, great."
Yeah. Hopefully the side dishes kind of, like, can carry this. Yeah, I don't think I would make, like, 3 usually I make, like, a main and, like, 2 sides. I wouldn't make, like, 3 completely, like, new things
Mhm,
altogether. I think I always rely on, like, one thing.
yeah, yeah. When when you host people, do you ever feel like additional pressure because you work in like hospitality and food? Like do you ever feel like what like when you're throwing Owen's birthday party,
Mhm.
do you feel like additional pressure to like really do something awesome and like decorate really well and all kinds of things because like you think that your guests sort of expect that
Um, I
or
think
no?
I think I put pressure on myself because I enjoy do it and I want it to be like spectacular and because I think that if we I think it's kind of like with work, right? If you're planning an event for someone, you want it to be awesome,
Mhm,
right? So so yeah, I feel like the family and the friends kind of expect things to be done well, or at least I think they expect that things. I don't know. I feel like they expect that there's going to be enough food for everyone. They know that there's going to be enough food for everyone, and the food's going to be good. I feel like that's
mhm,
the two like expect. They know like regardless of everything else, the food is going to be good. There's going to be enough to drink,
mhm.
and there's going to be enough food to eat.
Right,
I think these are like the type of like pressure I put on myself. I think everything else then is extra, right?
right.
But I always try to make sure that this still stay like the focus, and then everything else, as I said, is cherry. It's the stuff, and a lot of people like most of the probably like the women will notice certain things, but like a lot of like the husbands or the male in the family, I'm probably not gonna notice
Right,
some of
right.
these things.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too that like when you get into like crunch time of like sort of the last hour before people start arriving is when you
Right,
start looking at your list of things you still have to do and be like, okay, which things are not really important and nobody's gonna notice if like
right.
they're not there, right? Like,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why if there's like really small details that are important, but I also think they're not critical, I try to
Mhm.
make them like a couple days before.
Right.
So for instance, for Thanksgiving, I like to have the menu planned, the menu like written down,
Mhm.
at each place setting. But I also know that it's not critical. You don't really need it,
Right.
you know? So I try to make it a couple of days ahead because otherwise
Yeah, it is
it's
like
not
it's
happening.
yeah, that's the thing that just gets cut from the list
Yeah,
first,
when the turkey is in the oven, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna print out your menus.
right?
But all in all, hosting at home, it's very practical when you have children and your friends have children, you don't have to pay for a sitter.
Mhm.
Everybody gets everything they wanna eat.
Yeah.
There's no pressure of time. So all in
Mhm.
all, hosting at home is amazing.
Yeah. Shall we,
Should we move on? Should
yeah,
we move on to
shall
our
we move
last
on to
bite?
our yes, yes.
Okay.
Alright, I guess it's time for our last bite. Agnes.
Yes. So my last bite, I was telling you a little bit earlier about event branding, and I went on that website called Zazzle.com. It spells Zazzle. And I was able to create and design a completely custom like sticker and napkins, matching napkins, and also matching thank you cards for Owen's birthday party. And it was very easy. It came in really fast. It was very affordable. You can do anything from like for instance for Owen, I picked a specific like game control. I picked like the different colors I could put on it, the background color, the message, the size and the shape of the sticker that I wanted to buy. So very, very great resource, affordable resource for event branding, or if you want like those really cute little details for celebrations. I thought that I've never used them before, and I thought that was a really good resource.
Yeah, Zazzle is great. I think I have used them at work before for, like, a really last minute thing, 'cause that's the other thing is you can do, like, a really quick
Yeah.
turnaround with them, so, yeah, I think I've used them once for a work event where I don't know, we either forgot to order, like, something or a client said they wanted something at the last minute.
Yeah. They
But
do so much like sure. I mean, they do anything. They
yeah,
do
and
a
you could
lot.
really, like, customize things, so
Yeah.
it's nice. All right. Well, my last bite is actually a shout out to two of our listeners who left us some comments on Instagram letting us know what they made for dinner recently. So the first
Ooh.
is from um, Barb Jamison 914 said, my dinner last night was a turkey meatloaf and veggies. I always make double to have leftovers, and I've been doing my veggies in my air fryer.
I was so
which
excited to hear about the air fryer.
I know we should probably I don't have one, but I think on another episode, we'll probably talk a little bit about some, like, some of our favorite appliances.
Yep, for
I
sure.
I know the air fryer is,
The
very
popular one, yep.
mhm. And then another listener, Jess Willoughby, um, commented letting us know that for dinner last night, she had reheated butternut squash carbonara, a caramel apple, and some pickles from the jar. She says, "I'm a scavenger," which I can I can really relate to that meal, especially when I'm by myself. I feel like I that's how I eat. I don't really, like, make myself a meal or anything. I'll just go
Right.
for, like, we'll eat a little bit of this leftover and definitely pickles from the jar. That's one of my go-tos as well.
I'm really intrigued by the, butternut squash carbonara. I'm wondering if they were, like,
Mhm.
noodles or, like, cubes or that sounds really good,
Well,
actually.
Jess Willoughby, if you wanna tell us more about your butternut squash carbonara, feel free.
That sounds
Um,
awesome.
Send us a message, let us know.
Share the recipe,
Yeah.
you know?
All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Dinner Last Night. As always, if you want to share a story with us or suggest a topic, or maybe tell us about some dinner parties that you've hosted, you can leave us a comment or send us a message on our Instagram, Dinner Last Night Podcast, all one word, or our Facebook, Dinner Last Night Podcast as well. As always, we want to hear what you made for dinner last night.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode, and we will see you next week.
Bye!
Bye.